So, welcome everybody. I am joined by Aramat Arnheim-Sharon. Have I got that right?
Yeah, it's good.
Almost. And she's going to be talking about a new chapter that she has written for NC, National Center for Speech and Voice in Utah. Have I got that
Yes.
right? Well,
Yeah,
yes,
it's
in fact.
National Center for Voice and Speech in Utah, where Titze is the president. That's the book. And it was also through PAVA. I forgot to say that Pan-American Vocology Association took part in that. Yeah.
Great. And the chapter is on you were looking at the power of the voice to its vibrational aspects and its capacity for healing. And I've had a look at the chapter, and it was really impressive. And I love the fact that it's very candid. You're not trying to overestimate claims. You're being very cautious. So just talk me through how you actually ended up writing it in the first place. So give me a bit of context.
Okay, so I really enjoy being part of voice communities worldwide, and that's how I got to be part of the Pan American Vocology Association and met a lot of wonderful people. Two of them are my co-authors, Beth and Andrew, and basically what happened is that they had like a reach out in PAVA if someone would like to take part in that project. So there were many authors, and we ended up splitting into groups. Each group took a different topic. One of the topics were cancer or cancer cells. And I think I was the only one probably who volunteered to kind of venture into that topic because it's a little bit scary. I took part in another chapter, which is the heart rate variability in that book, which are in some ways, both of those chapters are connected. But yeah, I mean, I decided to go into a deep dive there, and I was actually really panicking because I knew it had to be an academic writing or and I was still a baby. I come from the private sector. I love to learn, but I was never in an academic environment and writing. And that's where you came in and sort of saved my life there, because I've decided I want to go into this adventure of doing the master's in Voice Study Center. And then as part of my preparation, I've studied in the Utah University with Tite, and I've done a lot of stuff, but I still didn't have like my academic writing there. And so you helped me prepare, and I did this course with you, and we discussed what's the best option for me to practice my writing. And I said, well, I need to work on that chapter. So, how am I going to do that? And then you discovered lots of new pathways for me, like using Mendeley and other stuff. And I just learned through it. It was actually not only a learning experience on the topic itself, but also on how to write. And then with my colleagues and everything, it just happened. And it was super, super exciting.
It was exciting. I think you're such an inspiration, and it's so wonderful to have you on. I was so passionate about that course. I often say to people, I actually think that's the best thing that the Voice Study Centre has ever done, is that introduction to postgraduate academic skills, as we call it now, which is a right mouthful, because there's so much talent out there that have, like you were passionate about voice coaching, you're into your music, you've you've done so much, and you're so talented, and that talent, I'm a real believer, but that talent will just transfer. And the thing is, with the academic tools and the skills, they're easy to teach. It is a formula, and we don't
Mm.
need to get so uptight about it. So I think it's been incredible to see you take that formula, and now But I actually came across your chapter by accident. I didn't even know you'd done it. I
Ah,
was researching another researcher. I was like, hang on a minute. I know that name. So you're so modest. So I think it's so inspirational for others to hear you talk about your journey and how far you've come. So just in terms of the chapter itself and the quality of the research that you've done, you obviously aren't making any great claims. And you talk about linking your heart rate variability stuff. And I guess in the chapter that's where you go. You kind of go into singing for health and the capacity of voice and health. So tell us a little bit about how the chapters sort of fit
yeah.
together.
Well, I think the first thing is well-being and stress that we have in day-to-day life. And stress has been tied to inflammation. It has been tied as a biomarker to cancer or any other autoimmune diseases. And it's definitely been connected to, heart rate changes and all that. And heart rate variability also has a lot to do with the vagus nerve. And so the vagus nerve, that also has a chapter, which I didn't take part on, but as we kind of went through the cancer chapter, I asked Dr. Tite, if it's okay to venture a little bit into the vagus because it seems to have a lot to do with it, with healing, with healthy life and well-being. And so he said, sure, go for it. And so I felt like it's important because at the end of the day, if we're talking about vibrations, and everything is vibrations in our body, and if we're talking about the fact that our larynx is creating those vibrations, and the vagus nerve, which is very important in our body, innervates the larynx directly in two different branches. And so any kind of thing that helps the vagus nerve or kind of is assisted as stimulation does in treatments for the vagus nerve. Maybe our larynx is a stimulator, in a way. Maybe our larynx is something that creates vibrations that are healthy for us. And it's not proven, and I can't know any of that for sure, but it was very nice to be like in that point of curiosity and thinking, hey, there could be something there, So let's look into it and then see how different factors like just community singing. I mean, there's a Danish study with I think 14,000 people who participated in a questionnaire. Some of them were taking part in musical activity and singing. Some of them didn't. And those who did said it helped them be healthier. And it was proven in other studies as well. Just the fact that you're singing and you're part of a community, it just reduces your stress levels and it improves your well-being. And then somehow, even if you get illnesses and you get through autoimmune stuff in your life, you become, how do you say that? You're like, it's an easier way to get through it. Your body is more resilient in a way. And I even remember I bought a book from, I have that mentioned in my book. I forgot the name, but it's an oncologist. And his book begins with, when I was studying medicine years ago, if someone would have told me that I'll be an oncologist and I'll have like a Tibetan bowl sitting in my clinic, I'll be laughing. But today I can't see how those two things are separated, because curing such a disease like cancer really requires a much bigger picture. It really requires a person to be seen as a whole, to be seen as the holistic picture of everything that the person needs. And yeah, that's where music comes in.
And you're quite clear on what the voice can and can't do in relation to cancer, aren't you? So talk us about that. What were your main findings there?
Okay, so there's a lot of treatments that are using vibrations. that are not in the audible range, that are not, frequencies that we can sing. So when we're talking ultrasound or electromagnetic fields, there are a lot of treatments, even infrasound. And so we know we cannot make those frequencies happen. I cannot just sing 100 megahertz because I want to. The interesting thing is that there are emissions of electromagnetic fields that may occur. Some studies have shown that they do occur, but we don't know exactly what they are. Okay, so it's all still in the out there land that is not proven and we know nothing about. But also some studies have actually shown that, frequencies around 300 hertz, 180 hertz, 130 hertz are really, really helpful. And so there are some specific frequencies that can really, really help us. And so why can't we use them in singing? And also, another point that was very interesting is that each cancer treatment needs to be individualized. So we need to understand how the body reacts to different frequencies, not only to the cancer type, but to the cancer type within that person. And so they use different kinds of feedback, different kind of measurements to understand if the treatment is working and if they can focus the energy in the right way. And it just gives you kind of a moment to think and say, hey, if my own voice out of everything out there is something that is in my body already, so it probably has some qualities that match my body if it's within my body. So that could be an option. Again, nothing that was studied. It's not like singing is a medicine that can make people earn a lot of money, so it's not something that people invest in. But it's there and it's worth considering. The other interesting thing was that one discovery actually talked about the 11th harmonic as a multiple. So like the ablation of the cancer cells and killing the cancer cells actually occurred when they matched a specific frequency with the 11th harmonic. And I was like, hey, we can do that if we learn how to work with our voices and use like twang and those kind of things. But again, not in electromagnetic fields. So that makes us rely on the electromagnetic stuff if they're there. And then there's the whole issue of treatments that have focused laser beams, which I don't know that we can focus our voice beams in that way. But yeah, so it's like, you're reading those things and you're saying, oh, that sounds like it matches what we do with our voice. But on the other hand, if we're talking about megahertz and we're talking about electromagnetics, then definitely not. So it's like we got excited about some stuff. There's a lot of potential. We know it's good in the well-being, but we have nothing valid. And it's going to be really nice if scientists actually do take part in their research in some way, singing groups and stuff like that, and create those measurements.
And do you think it's a neglected area of research, sound healing? How much research is there, and what quality is it?
Well, there was one researcher that we've decided to put into the chapter that is, and we mentioned that it's not peer-reviewed, and that's Maman, because Fabian Maman actually did a lot of sound healing, and he wrote a book about it. And being that he came from this woo-ha world, he decided that he wants to, venture into the science a little bit by himself, but no one agreed to be a part of it. So he just rented a lab and decided to do it on his own. The problem is that he did all these wonderful things, but they're not peer-reviewed. So they're not really considered, even though he had some really interesting results. We can't consider them as something that is actually like a factual thing, that we can consider into other protocols. So it was important to mention it. But yeah, there is a problem, and I actually go into sound healing conferences once in a while because I'm interested to see where things are going, what people are doing, and some of it I think is starting to go towards the science. And it speaks to the well-being, it speaks to let's just sing and feel it and, get involved and the community vibe and that's okay, that's great. It's just, I feel like there's more in there. The person who really kind of sacrificed his career in a way, and he does have some peer-reviewed work that we took into the chapter, is John Stuart Reid. And John Stuart Reid is a huge inspiration to me because he comes from the acoustical science. He created that CIMAscope. He's all into cymatics and understanding how sound kind of shows up in material, shows up in water, and so you can see different patterns. And he took part in studies in regards to cancer. And I remember I was in his lecture, and he said that when you go into surgery for cancer, then the doctors don't necessarily know exactly where the cancer cells end and where they begin. And so sometimes they need to cut some extra just to make sure, that it won't come back and that they removed the cancer completely. But cancer cells vibrate in a different way than healthy cells. And when you see the kind of pattern and the music that they make, the cancer cells are not as periodic, they're not as harmonic. And so they're creating those really weird shapes when you visualize it in compared to a normal cell or a really clean, pure sound. And so what he did is to help these doctors and to help those surgeons, he created those different, I don't know if it was glasses or just computer screens that allowed them to visualize the patterns and see where things start and begin in terms of different types of cancers as well. So vibrations are also a diagnostic tool. It can also help us, and I think that's also seen in different startups in the world today. When you're not only just identifying the voice and the person who's speaking, but you're also identifying different problems, and that goes back a long way. When you think about it, that's really funny because years ago when we didn't do like blood tests and stuff, a doctor would not diagnose a person by how they sound and how they look, that's all they had. And we're sort of coming back into the sound and the vibrations. It's just in its early days, but I think there's a lot there. I think it's hoo-ha, but I think there's a lot in it, and I really, really want to see that field grow. And John Stuart Reid is one of the pioneers, and I feel like he kind of sacrificed his scientific career in a way, or jeopardized his name by joining into the hoo-ha and trying to prove some of it. So, yeah.
Fascinating. So what is next for you?
So I think from learning a lot about voice science in general, not the health in particular, it made me wonder about music as a whole, and the patterns that we're using, the scales, the musical scales. And so I started working a lot with Voce Vista and Pratt and all those softwares that, analyze the voice and the multiples. And years ago, I realized, hey, the multiples that we're saying have created music, like the fifth and the octave and the fourth and all that. We changed them. They're off key. Like the multiples in our voice are not the equal tempered piano. The equal tempered piano that we use in voice pedagogy was a good solution to a problem that can now be resolved with technology. Technology that we didn't have years ago, which kind of made this piano as a compromise. And so for me right now, in a way, it's the voice science. In a way, I'm saying it's not health, but it is health related, just to go back into the roots and ask myself, can I use the tools of technology to go back to the roots and go back into the intervals that we used to have, intervals that are used in a cappella groups today, and in any type of singing that is not accompanied by piano. So I want voice pedagogy to be able to offer the singers who are using the natural intervals to be supported. And that's where I'm heading now, hopefully to finish my master's with that.
Does that involve making some kind of tool or? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working on that. Right now, it's a set of like tools that I've created. I have a guy that helps me on the technical side. He's going to be part of my team. But we're really hoping to develop the technology to use like this digital piano through a computer to change thing easily in a voice lesson. So,
Well, it's wonderful to have been privileged to watch you take off, to get published, and to listen to the fact that you are going to just keep on roaring ahead, doing great stuff. So thank you so much for joining me.
and thank you for making this journey possible, really.